Let me just start off by saying that I feel like I should have been arrested the moment I left the store with this figure. I feel like I robbed them. I expected like a whole FBI slash SWAT squad right outside the door. I expected McFarlane somewhere perched up on a tree with a sniper rifle ready to take me out because I paid $5.99 for this action figure. Yes, you heard that correctly, $5.99 at your local Ross. Make sure to at least stop by, just check it out. Worst case scenario, you can just pick up some cheap underwear or socks, because that's usually what I do at Ross. But $5.99, I just couldn't pass it up. What's interesting is I recently went to Burlington and I found the exact same figure for $9.99, and I was very tempted. It was already in my cart, but I decided to wait it out just a little bit longer, and it paid off. I ended up buying it for $4 less than Burlington, and I'm sure that if they continued to be on the shelves, they were going to be discounted even further, but I was able to find it for an absolutely perfect price point. Granted, I haven't really been picking up too many of the video game action figures from the DC Multiverse line, but this one kind of spoke to me. I actually genuinely enjoy this trilogy. It's one of my favorite gaming franchises of all time. And honestly, at that particular price point, I'll pick up almost any action figure. $5.99, it's always a really good price point to try out a new figure, try out a new character, maybe a new action figure line that you don't collect. It's always kind of fun. You can play around with it, pose it. $5.99, it's not going to break the bank, and for me personally, it's an absolute must-have. Now, I'll give you guys my personal quick take on it. It's not really like a quote-unquote review. It's a massively old figure, but I still decided to give you guys my quick thoughts, my quick take on this particular figure. And granted, it's not perfect. I love the sculpt work here. Obviously, as is the case with McFarlane figures, a little bit more paint wouldn't have hurt, but I love the sculpt here. I love the design. I love the outfit. Now, I'm not really too sure how accurate this is to the source material. Like I said, I haven't played the game in quite some time, but let's be honest, we don't expect McFarlane to get every single detail down. As long as it's a good, solid representation of the character, I think most people are going to be okay with it. And there have been some, OMs, some overseas OMs that did a much better job in terms of sculpt work, but those figures were well up there. I mean, they were close to $100 compared to this figure, which, retail, you were paying about $20. I will say the figure, as I said at the beginning, it doesn't come without its issues. For example, the head articulation is phenomenal when it comes down to tilt, the sideways movement, and then the figure's head sculpt can look down incredibly well. However, for some unknown reason, McFarlane decided to add a little soft plastic towards the back of the neck. Again, is it accurate to the source material? Maybe, but I don't see why that tiny little feature needed to be added. It really limits articulation for the head sculpt or the head to be able to move up. The forward ab crunch is absolutely non-existent. Very disappointing, especially considering that entire pelvic area and the mid torso uses soft plastic. So I would assume that it would have a better range of motion. I'm not sure what's going on here. I would prefer, if it's going to come down to this particular issue, I would much rather prefer a hinge or a cut at the mid torso, maybe a ball joint, to really help with the forward ab crunch, because a lot of McFarlane figures tend to run into this problem, especially the ones that have the soft plastic. Now, they have gone away from that in more recent figures. This is a figure that got released maybe 2 years ago, so he has made some improvements, but from time to time you will still see that soft mid torso, which really doesn't help with articulation. The ankles also run into some problems, not to mention they came incredibly loose out of the packaging. I'm not sure if that's because the figure has been sitting maybe in storage or on a shelf for quite some time. Maybe that had something to do with it, and the time helped loosen the ankles. But regardless, I think the sculpt of the lower part of the pants or of the tactical suit that he's wearing, it really limits how well the ankles can articulate. And then lastly, as you guys can tell, I don't have any 1/10 scale weaponry. I don't know why. I mean, maybe I do, but it's in a bin somewhere. Mostly I have 1/12 weaponry, so I don't have any guns. I don't have any handguns that would fit this particular figure because the DC Multiverse does not come with any. I believe I had one for the White Knight Joker, but then after that, whatever happened between Warner Bros. And McFarlane, I guess he's not allowed to do it. And I also didn't pick up the weapons ammunitions pack from McFarlane. I regret it at this point, but I don't have any 1/10 guns, and so I had to use like 2 grapple guns. One of them is from this figure, and then the other one is from the first appearance Batman, the one that I just recently picked up, the one with the purple gloves. So let's just use our imagination for a split second and pretend like they're real guns. But you know, like I said, this is one of those figures that definitely could have benefited from having some handguns. I will say I would have also loved an unmasked head sculpt, although I guess that could have been a spoiler for the video game. But at this point, if you haven't played the video game, I doubt you're going to jump in. You either know who he is or you don't. But all that aside, the figure is very well crafted. As I said, I love the body mold on here, the soft plastic around the shoulders, the shoulder pads. You do have to move them around to really get the arm to pop up a little bit more, but it does make it look a little bit weird because their shoulder pads are supposed to be on his shoulders, which is the way that I articulated it. But you can get a little bit more range of motion if you shift the shoulder pads maybe to the forward or backwards or under the arm. You can get a little bit more range of motion, but the soft plastic definitely helps in that area. Great elbows, great double jointed knees. So overall, the figure displays incredibly well. Like I said, $5.99, it's an absolute must pick up. And even at 10, which is the original price point that I saw him at recently, I think that's a phenomenal deal. But even if I had paid full retail, the $22 or $20, what it was at the time, I would have been okay with the figure. It's a good solid addition to your action figure display from McFarlane, regardless of whether you're into the video game franchise or not. I think it displays really well, and it's nice to see a Batman without a cape. I love me some wired capes and some hard plastic capes, but it's nice to see like a Batman-ish character. I mean, it's technically not Bruce Wayne, but a Batman character that has no cape. It's definitely aesthetically pleasing, at least in my personal opinion. So all around, if I had to give it a rating, I don't give ratings, but I would say it's like a solid 8, like a very low 8. A lot of the issues that I had were mostly with the articulation scheme and the way that McFarlane decides to design that mid-torso area. The soft pelvic plastic, I've said before, is great for articulation, but some other points of emphasis like the head articulation fell a little bit short. But as I said, this is a new series that I wanted to start for you guys, where I talk about maybe like the find of the week, where I talk about an action figure that I found out in the wild for an absolutely killer deal. I'll tell you guys where I found it and my overall thoughts on the action figure. It's kind of like a review for a really old ancient figure at this point, I guess. But like I said, I just wanted to share my find for today. $5.99 at my local Ross, and I will continue with some other killer finds. I did find a few other figures along with this particular collectible, so I'm assuming I'll probably save those for like the next couple of weeks if you guys enjoy this type of video. But winter is coming along, and that entire holiday season, Ross, Burlington, all of these places tend to give you absolutely killer deals when it comes down to collectibles. So make sure you're going to your local discount stores and stockpiling up on those figures. A lot of these ended up being like peg warmers for the longest time, and these retailers just want to get rid of these figures, and this is a perfect example of it. So I'll keep you guys up to date. If I find anything cool, I'll probably post a picture in the community tab, so stay tuned. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this type of content. If you guys do, make sure to let me know your thoughts down below. What cool finds have you guys ran into out in the wild? Any cool DC Multiverse action figures? I've seen a lot of G.I. Joes and a few Marvel Legends here and there, so let me know your thoughts down below about this figure and your overall finds. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Stay safe out there, and as always, make sure to enjoy the hobby. That's the most important part about all of this. Pose your action figures, take photos with them, just enjoy them. And make sure to stay tuned because we do plan on ramping up our uploads for the holiday season. I'm going to try to do at least one video on a daily basis. I know it's basically impossible for me, but I'm definitely going to give it a try. So stay tuned. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next one.